Welcome back. We've been talking about the film The Hunting Ground for the last hour. Now let's bring in the filmmakers. Academy Award nominated two-time Emmy winners Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering. Great to have you here to talk about all this. So when you see the impact that your film has had in just the past less than a year, and you hear the conversation that we've been having tonight, is this what you expected, Kirby?
This is what I'd hoped. We faced a problem. We made a film about a problem that had been covered up for decades, and you never know how a film will impact audiences, impact the country. But this film has really impacted the country since its premiere at Sundance. I mean, we've screened it on, there's been nearly 1,000 screenings on college campuses, and each time it screens on a college campus, it starts activism, it starts discussion, it starts change.
One of the things that's striking about the film is how many students you got to talk to you on camera, women and men. One of the women in the film said that she hadn't even told her mother yet. Yeah. So now, how are they feeling now that their stories are public?
They're feeling empowered and validated in a way that they never have before. It's really been heartening to see how people are rallying around the people that are coming forward, applauding them for their courage. And what I notice at every screening, someone comes up to me and says, I was too scared to say something. Thank you for this film. It's made me feel better to know that there are others out there that this has happened to who are talking.
I mean, there's so much of this that is in the shadows that people keep secret. We talk about how few victims actually report rape. For them to go on camera and know that they would be on national television, it's a huge decision.
It's an act of courage, and I think this entire country owes a debt to everybody who is in this film. I mean, there's no question. Without survivors coming forward and reporting their assault, talking about it to the press, the public will not know about it, and there's no opportunity for their perpetrator to be charged in any way.
And people have been afraid to come forward because of the shame and stigma around this act. But what they're really only doing, and also there's a lot of misconceptions that people are coming forward for, like self-aggrandizement or glory, the way we see ubiquitous now in reality TV. But all these people are only coming forward because they're trying to stop a crime from being committed on someone else. And that's what I think is really important. That's what I think the film shows. No one's coming forward for any other reason, but just to try and have justice served and have someone not be able to perpetrate this crime on someone else.
Why didn't you reach out to get the men's side of the story, those who were accused?
We did reach out, and most of them, I think all of them, refused to speak with us. All the major subjects in our film declined our interview request, so we did reach out.
But from the beginning, I mean, they say that you were late in reaching out. From the beginning, why didn't you want to weave in their stories, their side of their version of what happened?
Well, because we were following multiple stories. We were following dozens of stories, and we didn't know until late in the process that which stories would be in the film. So that was the reason. I mean, when you're editing a documentary, we edit the film right up to the end. In fact, we were editing after the Sundance premiere, so we didn't want to go out to somebody if they weren't going to be in the film. And the other thing that's key here is, other than Jameis Winston, whose name was public, we didn't name any of these accused. So we knew that their names were not going to be out there.
And yet, some of their stories are in the public record. Some of them did go through investigations as well as even court cases. Why didn't you include, even if they rejected wanting to be interviewed on camera, why didn't you include their version that came out in public documents?
What we did is we went through thousands of pages, in making this, and we corroborated everything that was in this. One of the things we really wanted to show that hadn't been shown before is the perspective of the survivors, and we thought that was very, very important.
Last week, 19 Harvard law professors who reviewed the case on appeal issued a press release stating that, quote, "There was never any evidence that Mr. Winston used force, nor were there even any charges that he used force. No evidence whatsoever was introduced at trial that he was the one responsible for the inebriated state of the women who are portrayed in the film as his victims, nor was anybody vested with final decision-making authority persuaded that Mr. Winston was guilty of any sexual assault offense at all," end quote. They went on to say that Mr. Winston was vindicated by them and the judicial proceedings and, quote, "subjected to a long, harmful ordeal for no good reason."
Well, let's start from the beginning. The film does not say that Brandon Winston used force. So the fact that these Harvard law professors are implying that the film did, when in fact it didn't, already raises credibility issues around these professors. Secondly, the grand jury indicted him on 2 counts of sexual assault. Now let's keep this in mind. Actually, it's very rare when if a survivor reports an assault to the police that the accused is even arrested. You know, it's about 1 in 5. And then it's even rarer that it goes to prosecution, about 1 in 10. So obviously, everybody involved in law enforcement thought that this was a very credible case and moved it forward. And in the end, he was convicted. He was convicted.
So just to be clear, the grand jury in this case indicted him, but he was convicted of something much lesser.
Right. This happens all the time. I mean, it's very difficult to get a conviction for acquaintance rape, particularly among students. This is why prosecutors very rarely take these kind of cases. The fact that the prosecutor took this case shows that there was a great deal of evidence that this actually happened.
And again, to be clear, what he was convicted of, which was non-sexual assault, a misdemeanor, and it was not of Camilla, it was of her friend.
Correct.
I'd like to say to these law professors, where have they been? Where have they been? If 98 times out of 100 women are telling the truth, and we know there's an epidemic that's uncontested of 1 in 5 getting assaulted on our campuses, where are the letters in the last 20 years from 19 law professors, the injustices towards all these women?
Another school that you featured in the film, FSU, Florida State University, in a letter to CNN, FSU, that's of course the school where Jameis Winston was accused of rape, they call your film, quote, unfair and journalistically indefensible. FSU says they did provide Erica a victim's advocate. In other words, they did take some action towards the victim, and they brought in an independent judge, they say, to investigate her case. What is your sigh? How do you respond?
You know, Erica has told her story 4 or 5 times, and you know, on the record, and she has been completely consistent all the way through. She is extremely credible, right? What happened here is that FSU took 2 years to come to the point of having a hearing. You know, the Department of Education strongly recommends that it takes 60 days. I mean, FSU was aware of this problem. The Florida State football coach, the Florida State police was aware that this assault had happened within 2 months of the assault happening, yet they allowed this process to go on for 2 years. I mean, Florida State has completely failed in this, and I think, you know, the New York Times did an excellent piece on this that showed conclusively how Florida State has failed.
You've heard this evening there has been criticism of the film from different corners, from different colleges, from different attorneys. Did any of that surprise you?
No, you know, there hasn't been that much criticism. I think, I want to say most schools have not been critical of this. Most, you know, the fact that so many schools have actually used this as a way of opening up discussion on their campuses. Sometimes it's faculty, sometimes it's students, sometimes it's administrators themselves who want this discussion to start. So, you know, the vast majority of schools have not been critical of this at all. They know this is a problem, and I think, you know, the fact that this school is compelling them to change, in some ways they wanted to do this themselves. I was sitting down with one college president where there was a problem, and she said, I need pressure to make change. I need pressure. And so this is giving them an opportunity.
Amy, Kirby, thank you for being here and for answering all of these questions. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you.